Okay, we're going to welcome everybody back to In the Music Room and the interview part of our show, which to me, this is one of the interesting things where we get to learn about these great artists that get to come and find their way to Waxahachie from time to time. Tonight we have Helene Cronin with us, and Helene is truly one of Dallas's elite singer-songwriters. I started to say female, but it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
She's one of the elite artists in Dallas, and one of the best I've seen from Dallas in a long time.
Thank you.
In a long time. I really mean that. I guess the best place to start is, let's start with where you were born and raised.
I was born in New York. I was born on Long Island, actually, and grew up around the salt water, and my dad had a boat, and we were out on that thing all the time, and come from a big family, 5 children, and we moved to Dallas, and I went to high school here and grew up, like I said, over in Casa Linda. And my family was very musical and very artistic. I don't know where it all comes from. But my oldest brother was a very well-known artist in Dallas named Stuart Kraft, and he was a visual artist. He did sculptures and jewelry and had a big studio over in the Design District, and he's the one that passed away 3 years ago. But he was the one who brought songs off the radio into the house, and he played guitar, and so I would sneak into his room when he wasn't home and borrow his guitar. And I had grown up playing piano. My mom made sure we all had piano lessons, so I, took piano all the way through college. But it was really guitar that kind of widened. Well, it gave me an identity, because I was the girl in the church youth group who played guitar, and so I would help lead worship songs. Were just starting to come up, and so I would help lead worship. But what we would do is, after like a Christmas meal, the whole family would go sit in the den, and we'd have all the guitars out, 3 of us on guitar and 1 on mandolin, and we would just sing. We would sing Paul Simon and Gordon Lightfoot and John Denver and Dan Fogelberg and anything off the radio.
And you're talking about all singer-songwriters.
Yes, people that wrote their stuff.
So obviously that was an important thing in your house.
It was, and then later I learned some Joni Mitchell and stuff like that. But it was those songs, and it taught us harmonies, and it taught us singing, together as a group. But it was music that we kind of gathered around. So that was the beginning of me loving guitar and loving songs. And it wasn't until college. I was a freshman in college, and a girl was going to leave in the middle of the school year and go to the same school her boyfriend went to. So I decided to write her a song. So, and I don't remember ever writing a song before, so this is the first one I remember. So I wrote this song, and we got the whole dorm together, and I played this goodbye song for her, and all the girls cried.
Aww.
And I was hooked. It was like, oh, I have this
power.
And you just is instantly knowing I can do this.
Yeah, it was, and so guitar gave me an identity, and then songwriting began to creep into my thinking, and then I went to college in Boulder, Colorado. I left that small school and ended up going to Boulder, and began writing a song a week, and they were all contemporary Christian, because that's kind of just what I wanted to do at that point. And I didn't open my life up to songs. I didn't write from experience. It was more theological and about a vertical relationship. And so I put out 3 albums. I sang at churches, I sang at weddings, I led worship, I started having children, and songwriting kind of went to the back burner for a while I was raising my kids. But somewhere around 2003, 2004, a lot of my friends were writing country, and I think I had joined Dallas Songwriters Association, and I thought, I need to go. I grew up not liking country music because it's twangy, and I just kind of didn't like the older stuff, but I started listening, and I went, this is where all the songs went, that the folk stuff that I grew up with, which I hate the word folk, but the singer-songwriters that I grew up listening to, it was like all of that was in country now. Lyrics mattered in country, and they still do. Whereas in other genres, it's about the beat or about the melody, or country is storytelling, and that's what drew me in. So I began writing.
Well, and so is folk music.
It is.
So that's one to me. It's like that. Your draw into the country market is into personal stories, where folk is more about society.
It is. That's probably true.
You know,
I hadn't thought of that.
You know, I'm really surprised that we have never run into you, because it was in 2004 when Randy and I met, and we started going to the Dallas Songwriters Association
Really? Yeah.
events at Dunn Brothers Coffee House.
I may have, I can't remember, we may have moved to Plano by then. I can't remember if I was still going. But I had a history with Dallas Songwriters and had been involved with, Barbie and Beverly Houston, and then I think we moved to Plano, and I didn't go as much because kids were little and it was hard.
but that
to
was
get
kind
there.
of gave you a start.
It
Yeah.
did, because I met ordinary people like me who were writing songs about their ordinary lives, and it was very cool. It was the first song I wrote, I took it to a Dallas Songwriters meeting, and there was a guy there who wrote and knew Harlan Howard, and he said, I need to send that song to Harlan Howard. So my very first song got signed by Harlan Howard and his wife Melanie,
Oh, wow.
and then a year later they gave it back to me. It was not ready, but it was like, oh my gosh, this, more doors started to open for
Good
the
enough though to
country.
get their attention. And,
Yeah, enough to give me that little, oh, there's something here. So actually I think that was like 98, 99. So then in 2003, 2004, I kind of got this nudge. You didn't really finish it. You really didn't explore it. And it takes a while to figure Nashville out and to figure out, I still am learning stuff all the time. But I started going back once, twice a year, then 3-4 times a year. And then I met that soldier at the airport. And then I wrote that song in 2008. And then we put it on, I didn't even play it for people. It just said, lucky me, it just sat in my guitar case for a while because I didn't know what to do with it. And then Scott Shawn White had a little song competition. And I thought, I knew Scott, I knew who he was, I knew he was going to Nashville. I thought, I need to get to know Scott. So I entered the competition, and lucky me, won it. And then I began seeing how people responded to the song. So my sister said, you need to put that on YouTube. And I was like, why would I put a song on YouTube? So in 2010, she put pictures, because she's a videographer, she's excellent. So she put the video on YouTube, and it went bam, and somebody got it to Mike Huckabee, and they were sending it to Ellen and Oprah and Sean Hannity, everybody. But Huckabee's the one that I got an immediate call. Like,
Isn't he a neat man?
yes, I loved. He
And a
he
good bass player,
played
too.
bass player behind. Yeah, so there's a little old recording somewhere. I think I've got it on DVD. It's very hard to find, of me playing on his show, and he's playing bass behind me, and he's got a couple of his guys play. It was a highlight, and I'm like, even if nothing else ever happens with this song, this is pretty cool.
That
It is.
And then every other opportunity I've had, it's like, even if nobody else records the song, this is pretty cool. So,
Yeah.
so
And
that
you,
song,
and you created it.
yes,
How cool is that?
yeah.
Well, do you feel as a songwriter that you create a song, or do you feel like you just get the lyric and write it down?
It's very hard work, and I feel like I do the work. So I don't know if that answers it. I feel like yes.
Steve Goodman always said, I never wrote a song, I just write the next lyric that comes.
Well,
So in other
I
words,
don't
you
know. Yeah, I mean, some people are like, I've heard people say, if the lyric just doesn't pour out, just bam, then it's not worth writing. And I don't know that I agree with that. I have
Right.
songs that have taken me. The first song Scott and I wrote together took 3 years.
They can
We
take a while.
took 2 sessions to write it, and then we hit a wall. And it wasn't until 2.5 years later that I said, hey, I think I have our second verse. And then we got together 2 more times, and it was done. But that was a 3-year process.
Yeah.
And that just took time.
It did, and it was worth it.
Let me ask you something. You mentioned earlier of the household growing up in with all the musical environment. Who would you say of those people, or maybe one that you haven't mentioned yet, influenced you the most in your writing? Or do you find
Oh,
more of your
gosh.
contemporaries?
I think more
influencing?
contemporary. Like, I love Lori McKenna. I love Travis Meadows. Starting to listen to Chris Stapleton, because they're people that tell stories in unusual ways, and they have little details, and then they just die when you hear it. You go, oh my gosh, I can't believe they just did that simple little thing. Like the song Humble and Kind, where he says, when it's cold, when it's hot, eat a root beer popsicle. I mean, it's
Yeah.
so simple, but it's so different, and that kind of stuff gets me excited.
Mhm.
So I am highly influenced too by my fellow songwriters in Nashville. The little group that I run around with are a bunch of freakishly talented, unknown people, and I've learned a ton from working
And there's
with
a
them.
bunch of those little groups of people running around
Mhm.
Nashville.
There are, and that's
Well,
sort of your
bunch of us,
tribe. We
we've
call
seen
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we call it. I mean, I feel like I have people that I'm kind of coming up with that, or that I'm part of this little group that has something.
Well, you
kinda
are
going.
now a part of our tribe.
That's
Thank
right.
you. Thank you.
Like it or not,
I'm
you're in.
no, that's.
We were talking earlier, and Alex was in on the conversation, your daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a writer. Imagine that. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Yes.
And you have her there to critique you and,
Yes.
and all that. And maybe she'll write a song with you one day. You never know.
Maybe.
Is your other daughter also artistically inclined?
My other daughter is very talented at pretty much any instrument she picks up. She did great at piano, and both of them were great piano players. And then Adrian took guitar for a while, but she just wasn't too interested in music. Neither one of them have been that interested in the musical end of things. So Adrian,
They're still young.
they are, yes. And they have other giftings.
Yeah.
I've never ever tried to get my kids to do, other than providing opportunity and chance to be on the basketball team or a chance to try music. It's they get to choose.
Yeah.
So, and my parents were that way. They wanted us to go to college, but they never said major in this or do this, or it was whatever we felt was, and that's why they got a bunch of
What's your
artists.
favorite album of all time?
Sean Colvin's Steady On. When that came out, I listened to it non-stop
She's good.
for about 2 years.
Yeah.
And I don't even know why, but I loved what she did, and I think what she was doing is what I kind of wished I could do at the time, but I just have been slow to.
What book would you like to read that you haven't read?
What book should I read? I should probably finish the Harry Potter series.
Still working on that.
Yes. Or reread Lord of the Rings. I like that world creation genre, and that's what Alex writes a lot of. But I've also started, a few years ago, I started going back and trying to read some classics. Like I read Moby Dick. It took me a year to get through that book.
Wow.
It was so dense. But like I've done some F. Scott Fitzgerald, The Great Gatsby was very interesting. And kind of going back in Grapes of Wrath, picking up some of those classics, and those have
Do you
been
have a
very good.
favorite film of all time that you like? What's your film genre that you like?
I like anything. I like stuff that the Angelica Theater will show, kind of off. My favorite, besides Sound of Music.
Well, Sound of Music's okay. There's nothing.
Yeah, I mean that's always been a favorite. Something just went through my head and went right out. Shawshank Redemption was very impactful.
It's funny how a movie can, make you just stop.
And stay
Certain-
with you.
Certain films do that you just can't shake. Even maybe one that's funny.
Yes.
That'll have something in it that constantly
Princess
recurs
Bride.
in your life.
And you,
What?
Oh
Yes,
yes,
yeah, those
yes,
are
that's
those are
right.
some of the most quotable. Those two, Big Fat Greek Wedding and,
Yeah.
and Princess Bride.
I always love the quotes in Steel Magnolias too. Because there's so many good lines.
That's a
in
great
it.
one.
Mhm.
The only thing that separates us from the animals is our ability to accessorize.
We
Didn't
went-
your mama tell you if you don't have anything nice to say, come sit next to me?
I was gonna say my mom
Yeah.
wasn't one of those. My mom said what she thought,
Yeah.
unfiltered. We were in Santa Fe this week, my husband and I, and killing one night watching TV, and The Blind Side came on, and man, it was just such a great movie.
Mhm. That is a
So-
good movie.
I like stuff like that makes me cry.
Well, tell us, you are going to Kerrville this year because you are nominated.
I'm a finalist. They had 600 people. They said about 600 entries to the New Folk competition, and I'm one of 32 that got chosen to be a finalist, which I feel like is. a big
I saw
honor.
that list, and that's a pretty good list. I know a
I
number
don't
of those
know a
people
lot.
as well.
A lot of them I don't know, so I'm really
There's
looking forward to
talented.
getting.
There's very talented people. on
I've
that
started
list,
listening through some of their stuff, going, okay, who am I up against?
It's always good to know your competition,
Yeah.
right?
The great thing though about songwriting to me is it's totally subjective, because a song can mean something totally impactful in somebody's life, and it
Yes.
goes right over somebody else's
Else's
head
head, yeah.
or right below their radar. Yeah.
And I've just learned judges are different and they're human and they're all going to like different things, and it's not always my turn, you know. So and I've kind of gotten to the point where I really don't even enter competitions anymore. But I did this one because I've been wanting to be more on the Americana circuit and getting coffee house gigs. I've played Uncle Calvin's and Poor David's Pub and the Bluebird Cafe, but it's very hard to break into the house concert circuit, and I've been trying to do that, but nobody knows who I am.
There are going to now. They're
Yeah.
going to now, and they're going to after we do one with you.
Thank you.
And that is coming.
Thank you. Well, I thought Kerrville, the folk thing, the new folk contest would help at least put me on people's radar. So that, to me, I've already accomplished kind of what I wanted to.
And you're
with
going to
that.
make so many new friends.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah,
thank
you're
you.
gonna love it
I'm
down
excited.
there. You have fun down there. It's great. I mean, it's a happening.
Yeah.
You know, Rachel Lavin was in here a few years ago, and she went. Ken Gaines. She went to Ken, and Ken said, "Why haven't you ever entered into into Kerrville?" And she said, "Well, you know, that's a really good thing." And he said, "Enter your songs," and she won.
Yeah.
Wow. What's her
Yeah.
name? Rachel.
Rachel
Rachel
Lavin
Lavin.
from San Antonio.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, she went out there her first year of entering Kerrville, sending them a song, she wins.
Yeah.
Wow. Good for her.
She won New Folk.
Yeah.
Well, we wish
So-
you the best of
Thank you.
luck.
I expect you to win this thing.
Ah.
I think you're in it to win it.
Thank you. I am in it to win it, but I've also I've kind of learned my path and my, what I aim for isn't always the way things turn out. And I've had a twisty path to getting
Don't
Well,
change
as,
it.
as Randy would say, no more stinking thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't mean it that way. It's just that some things are out of my hands. The
They
best
are.
thing I can do is write the best song, get up and do the best job I can
That's right.
playing. And the two songs I entered are Last Cowboy and Homeless Keys. And so, you know,
Great.
I think I stand a pretty
Yeah,
good
I think
chance.
that'll
Much
be
as
right.
anybody.
I think you're going to do real well there. I think
Thank you.
be pleasantly surprised. And they're going to love you.
Thanks.
That's the main thing. Oh, it's been great having you.
It has been.
Helene
Thank
and
you.
Helen.
Yes.
I
Helen and
know.
Helene. This sounds like
We're
we could
bound to
get
be
some-
stars.
Yes.
Yeah, something's going on here. I want to also thank Jean and Barbara and
Yes.
everybody in the studio audience today. Alex, thank you for being here too. And
Bruce Davis.
David, yeah, Bruce, David, Deborah, the McClellans.
Yeah. No,
And Bruce, Norman,
Yes.
Snyder.
Schneider.
Oh, the McClellans aren't
And
here,
then-
that's right.
But I
But
was.
do you know what? He was, he sent a note in a while ago when you were on, that he was on listening
So
to
he
it.
was
That's why it
watching
stuck
too.
in my head, yeah.
Who was? Oh,
Yeah.
somebody
It's
else.
the
Snyder show.
McClellans.
Oh,
That's
okay,
their
good.
in-laws.
Okay,
My
good.
brother.
Your oh.
That's right.
Mike Howard.
But we're real tickled to have you here. And,
Thank you. This
I
has
hope,
been-
you know, we talked about something off camera that I want to discuss
Yeah.
with you more.
Okay.
And about you coming back next year. We'll get you back as soon as we can get you back.
And everybody out there, you just stay tuned and keep
Yeah.
watching because there's going to be more from this lady next year.
Absolutely.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, and you're in the music room.
So this is by request, which I'm always happy when anybody knows a song well enough to request it. Hopefully I know it well enough to sing it. One of the things I hate worst about performing is forgetting words.
Yeah.
So it's just like I've just kind of gone, you know what, it happens, and I'm not going to wig out about it. This one used to hang from my diary by a ribbon. Kept all my secrets hidden from Mama's prying eyes. Here's the one from Grandma's jewelry box, one from Daddy's workshop, the one under the back porch flower pot that we all knew where to find. They might be sitting in a junk pile, lying at the bottom of a dresser drawer. Some so old and rusty, I can't remember now sitting in a junk pile, lying at the bottom of a dresser drawer. Some so old and rusty, I can't remember now what they were for. But some can take me back in time and unlock my memories. So I just can't toss them out, all of these. Homeless kids.